morning, class 7. So I can see all of you have some good plans for winter break. But before that, you people are going to, do your studies a little bit. Once again, a very gentle reminder. So I hope you remember Monday is your assessment.
Exam.
Yes, Monday is your assessment. Now, assessment has two parts. One part writing in copy, one part in Vicon. So you people will have to catch up on speed. I will give you total 45 minutes to complete both. And you need to be, vigilant. You need to be on time. Beforehand only I am telling, no need to copy any questions. No need to copy down the questions and do the then you need to sit and do. I will keep the Vicon test and this test open at the same time, so you need to join class exactly on time and start ahead with your questions. So the topics are Babur, Humayun and Sher Shah Suri. So let us watch a small summary video before we move ahead. Then it will be like a recapitulation summary video that
Ma'am, we have completed Sher Shah Suri.
Yes, we have
I was
completed
absent.
Sher.
Okay.
Ma'am, Rishabh Kaul, I just have one question that, ma'am, in the Sher project, how many slides will it be? Like one slide each, or can we do two slides in some say slightly bigger factor?
Absolutely, yeah. So it depends on the facts. I'm not going to say that, of course, you don't make 15, 20 slides, but you can always go up to 7, 8 slides. Not a problem. It's your presentation.
Okay.
I don't have any problem.
Thank you, ma'am.
Soft air fresh.
My Uber Moto is picking me up.
কোড ব্যবহার করুন রাইড মোটো 19 মাত্র 19 টাকায় 6 কিলোমিটার সফর করার জন্য।
The Mughals. The Mughals were descendants of two great lineages of rulers. From their mother's side, they were descendants of Genghis Khan, and from their father's side, they were successors of Timur Lang. However, Mughals did not like to be called Mongols, as they were proud of their Timurid ancestry. Babur. Babur inherited the small Central Asian kingdom of Farghana at the young age of 11 years. Soon he was driven out by an Uzbek tribe of the region. His attempts for the conquest of Samarkand had failed. He soon conquered Kabul in 1504 CE. Babur was fascinated with India's wealth. When Daulat Khan Lodi invited him to India, he did not want to miss the opportunity of conquering India. He then invaded India and defeated Ibrahim Lodi at the Battle of Panipat in 1526 CE. After this, Babur occupied Delhi and made Agra his capital. This battle marked the beginning of Mughal Empire. Babur defeated the combined forces of Rana Sanga of Mewar and his allies at Khanwa in 1527. Later he conquered Gwalior, Dholpur and other places. He defeated the chief of Chanderi in 1528 and Afghan chiefs of Bengal and Bihar in 1529. In a short period of 4 years, Babur acquired territories from Indus to Bihar and from Himalayas to Gwalior. But before he could strengthen his hold over his conquest, he died in 1530. Though he was buried in Agra, his remains were later moved to Kabul as per his will. Babur was the most illustrious man of his age. He was educated in Persian and Arabic and wrote his autobiography Baburnama in Turkish, his mother tongue. We learn about the Mughals from a number of books written during this period. We have Jahangir's biography, Jahangirnama, written by his sister Gulbadan Begum. Many court historians like Abul Fazl, travelers like Frenchman Bernier, and Christian missionaries like Father Rodolphe have left behind very valuable accounts. Humayun. After the death of Babur, his son Humayun succeeded him and inherited a large empire. Humayun had a very turbulent life as a ruler. Initially, he struggled to maintain his kingdom as he fought with Sher Shah Suri of Bihar and Bahadur Shah of Gujarat. After he was defeated by Sher Shah at Chausa and Kannauj, he became a king without kingdom, wandering in Sindh, Rajasthan and Persia, looking for shelter and help. He made preparations to recover the lost territories in India by making Kabul his base. When he was at Amarkot in Sindh, his wife gave birth to their son Akbar. In 1555, he reoccupied Delhi and re-established his empire in India. Unfortunately, he did not live long after this. He died in 1556 due to an accidental fall from the stairs of his library building in Purana Killa in Delhi. Sher Shah, the ruler in eastern India who defeated Humayun twice in the battles of Chausa and Kannauj, was Sher Shah. After defeating Humayun, he became the Sultan of Delhi. He was the son of an Afghan Jagirdar from Jaunpur in Uttar Pradesh. His kingdom stretched from Jhelum to Brahmaputra and Himalayas to Narmada. In a short period of 5 years, Sher Shah improved the administration of his territories. He had a large standing army and continued the practice of branding horses. He respected the cultivators and ordered that his soldiers should not cause injury to standing crops when they marched. Babur and Humayun failed to consolidate their powers as they both ruled an empire that was only held together by force of arms and lacked a consolidated civil administration. But Sher Shah was an able administrator. He established a monarchical system of government. The kingdom was divided into provinces, which were further divided into a number of sarkars. They were further divided into parganas or districts, which were then divided into villages. A village was the lowest unit of administration. The parganas were under the Sheikhdar, who looked after the law and order, and Amil or Munshi was responsible for collection of revenue. He himself directly supervised the administration. He treated all equally and gave impartial justice. An efficient spy system kept him well informed of happenings in his empire. He was tolerant towards other religions. He built a number of roads. Prominent among them are the Grand Trunk Road connecting Lahore to Multan and Agra to Jodhpur. Land revenue was the major source of income for the king. Revenue was assessed on the basis of the fertility of land. The revenue to be paid was 1/3 of the produce, and it could be given either in cash or kind. Sher Shah took several measures for the welfare of the people. He built many sarais, which were safe rest houses where the merchants used to spend nights during their journeys from one place to another. This encouraged merchants to travel extensively, which in turn led to the growth of trade. Trade also got an impetus with the introduction of a new rupee coin called rupiah. Sher Shah's history was written by Abbas Khan in 1579 CE, which gives many details of his administration. As per his account, if a theft or robbery was committed, the Muqaddam had to produce the culprits or point out their places of hiding. It was done as it was believed that without the knowledge of headman, nothing could happen in a village. It greatly helped in the trade and commerce. His brilliant career was cut short in 1545 CE when he died of a gunpowder explosion while laying siege to the fort of Kalanjar in Bundelkhand.
বিয়ের আগেই আসে shaadi.com এর সিজন আজই ডাউনলোড করুন।
Okay. So a small revision. I think now the topic is
Ma'am,
clear
they
to
said
you
no
all.
that you either pay in cash or in kind. What does mean pay in kind?
1 minute. What?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
he said no,
can
that
I
he
answer?
accepted payment in cash or in kind. What does it mean?
Ma'am,
in
may I
payment?
answer?
You pay in cash or in kind. This has a very simple meaning. What do you mean by this when you say You pay in cash, either pay in money. Means in money, like we pay, or in kind means when you are growing crops, suppose you have grown 10 kg of crops. So 1/3 of 10 kg of the crop itself, you give it to the king. Now the king can either sell it in the market or do whatever is necessary or whatever is needed and get back, get the money, or use the grains to keep it in the, fill it in the granaries and use it further. So cash means either you are directly paying in money, or kind means you are giving a part of the crop itself to the king. Okay, so whatever,
Okay, ma'am.
you have weights and measures, standard weights and measures. So you are measuring, suppose there is 10 kg, so 1/3 of 10 kg, so that much you are giving it, or 9 kg. So what is 1/3 of 9 kg?
What, ma'am? 1/3 of 9 kg, 3 kg.
3 kg. So 3 kg.
I can do that.
King,
Why
very
is
simple
taking so long?
calculation. So
Okay,
3
ma'am.
kg of crop itself. Suppose it's rice, so 3 kg rice, you are giving it to the king because you are not paying cash. So
Ma'am,
that is
it is always 1/3.
paying cash or in kind. So now I hope this is very clear. Babar, Akbar, Humayun, Babar, Humayun, Sher Shah, how the timeline is going. Okay, so in this timeline, few important, few questions you all can note this down and practice at home. Very simple questions, but something that will, something that you all can practice. Like first question definitely can be, how did the Mughal Empire get its name? So who is going to answer this question to me?
Ma'am, can I say?
Okay, Aryaman, raise your hand in participants. I'll have guide you on.
And the Mughal Empire got its name from its Mongol ancestry.
And which Mongol ruler was it related to?
The
Ma'am,
Genghis Khan. And how was it? How were the Mughals related to Genghis Khan?
Ma'am, because on Babur's father's side,
Babur's father's side?
Mother's side.
Mother's
Mother's side, Genghis Khan.
father's
side was Timur. Mother's side.
Yes,
Mother's side. Mother's side.
listen, do not write incomplete answer. So if I ask you, how did the Mughal Empire get its name? Definitely you will have to mention that Babur was a descendant, or Babur's ancestor from his mother's side was a Mongol chief, Genghis Khan, and he was very proud of his relation with this Mongol chief. So it is extremely important that you mention this part. Hence, to show this connection with the Mongols, the name Mughal has been adopted by Babur. The name Mughal was adopted. Understood? So you need to clearly mention that from his mother's side, they were related to a Mongol chief, Genghis Khan, and they were very proud of their Mongol ancestry. Means Babur was very proud of his Mongol connection. Hence, the name Mughal was adopted to show the connection, that they are linked to the great Mongolian chief. Next, I can ask you, this is a very simple question, something that you already know. Who invited Babur to India?
Ma'am, Daulat Khan Lodi.
And Daulat Khan.
Rana Sangha of Mewar and Daulat Khan Lodi.
And Daulat Khan Lodi. Along with this, I can add something like this, something like this can be added. Now, you all already know what are the motives behind inviting them. Now, if I change this question and ask you, why do you think Babur accepted their offer or invitation to come? What will you write?
Because India was very well accepted the invitation.
Don't answer together. Shukalpo, yes, please.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand.
India was a very prosperous country and had many fertile lands.
India was a, no to this. Let's keep it to this. India was a very prosperous country, and Babur had heard of India's immense wealth.
Immense wealth.
So when he got the invitation to come to India, he
I can,
accepted the offer. Now, next,
Ma'am, I can say something.
yes,
Can I say
please.
something? Ma'am, can this be a point? I am not sure about this. Actually, his uncle struck his kingdom, so he wanted a revenge from them. That's why he wanted to make the new kingdom
Yeah.
like that.
No,
That is
no.
all.
Don't write it here, because when he got the invitation to come to India, his point was to come to India first and settle down here. Yes, there are beliefs of historians that he wanted to use the money to raise a big army and attack back.
Yes, that I'm fine.
But for now, you just, what was the main reason that was apparent, because he never attacked Fargana. He never got the chance to attack Fargana again. So let's keep it till here that he had heard of India's immense wealth and hence agreed to accept the offer of Daulat Khan and Ibrahim Lodi. Daulat Khan and Rana Sanga. Now,
Rana Sanga.
this question is very clear that what helped Babur win the first battle, or why do you think Babur won the first battle of Panipat? This is a simple question. Wait,
Yes, ma'am.
Shraddha, can you?
Artillery guns and
I just said one name. Shraddha, can you tell me why do you think Babur won the battle of first battle of Panipat? Yes, Shraddha, please speak up. Yes, good.
Ma'am, he used artillery which were unknown to the Lodi army.
Very good. And another point?
Can I say? Ma'am, Babur had a small army, but his army was well organized and trained with experienced soldiers.
Very good. Absolutely. If it is a 2 marks question, this is absolutely the correct answer.
Ma'am,
Shrirup,
there is another point.
Shrirup, can you give me any other point?
Ma'am, can I say?
Ma'am,
I'm asking.
because
Shrirup,
Ma'am, can I say?
the first battle of Panipat, because he had a well-trained army. It was small, but it was well-trained, and he also used artillery like guns and cannons.
and who was a better leader?
Babur was a more competent general than
Ma'am, I was saying, I don't remember what I say.
You need to learn, children, you need to learn to respect when others are saying.
It's better if you mute us.
Please, I am allowing someone to speak. Let them speak as well. You know the answer, that's a very good thing. Shrirup, the other reason, who was a better general? Who was a better leader? Babur or Ibrahim Lodi?
Ma'am, I would say Babur.
Babur was a much better general. Absolutely. So this is something, this answer is very much known to you all. Now, there can be another why
Ma'am,
or to give reason question. Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, Babur also used horses and the Lodis used elephants.
Horsemen, yes, absolutely. You can say his
Ma'am,
army
just
had
like
trained
cavalry.
cavalry, trained horsemen which easily defeated which was fast and could defeat the Lodi army. Yes, you can add this point. Okay, now I can ask you another question is, why did Rana Sanga later on turn against Babur? What will you give as the answer, Rupayan?
Ma'am, Rana Sanga thought that Babur would loot India and go back to his kingdom. But then he saw that Babur's state settled down in India, and then he turned against him.
Yes, but you have to mention that this is okay. Your answer is correct. You have got the correct thing. But in a way, it is a little incomplete because mention this, that Rana Sanga wanted to establish Rajput rule on Delhi. Okay, so then, he allowed Babur to come so that because he thought Babur will come and go back, and then Delhi will go, he will be able to establish Rajput rule in Delhi. But since he was, since Babur stayed, he was unable to establish Rajput rule in Delhi. Hence, he turned his enemy. And which battle did they fight together? All of you. Battle of Khanwa.
There were 100,000 Rajput.
Now, another question can be, what is the significance? What is the significance of the Battle of Kannauj? Abhirup, what is the significance of the Battle of Kannauj fought in 1540? Abhirup, you can't hear me, Abhirup. Maybe maybe he can't hear me. Okay, Shona.
Yes, ma'am. The significance of the Battle of Kannauj is that Babur won the Sher Shah Suri won the battle and Humayun was defeated, and Sher Shah Suri took control of India.
Took control of Delhi. Don't say full India. Took control
of Delhi.
So Humayun had to lay down his crown, and Sher Shah Suri started what dynasty? Again, incomplete answer.
Sur
dynasty. So, again, work on your answer framing. How will you answer? The Battle of Kannauj is extremely significant because in this battle, Humayun lost to Sher Shah second time, and he had to lay down his crown and the throne of Delhi and flee away from Delhi. He had to flee away from Delhi, and Sher Shah captured, or you can write it, Sher Shah captured Delhi and started the Sur dynasty. So the Battle of Kannauj marked a break in the Mughal rule and a re-establishment of the Afghan rule. Okay, so depending on the marks, you are going to frame the points. Now, Pranjal, can you tell me, when Humayun became the king, what problems did he face in the western side, what problems came from the western side of India?
Ma'am, like problems
as a king when Humayun ascended the throne of Delhi, what problems from the western side of India? Yes.
His own brothers were ambitious and rebellious. In fact, they always sided with Humayun and sided with the enemies of Humayun. And Humayun himself was not an able general like his father.
Again, see, Pranjal, your points are correct, but you haven't read the question fully. I am asking you, what problems did he face from the western part of his empire? Western side of his empire, from the western part of India. So which point?
Okay, the rulers of North India regarded the Mughals as foreigners and wanted to drive them away. Sher Shah, the Afghan chief of Bihar and Bengal, and Bahadur Shah, the ruler of Gujarat, kept on challenging him continuously, and finally he lost his empire in 1540.
This is the problem. You see, whatever is there in the study material, if you write everything, then it shows you did not understand the question itself. Yes, your answer did have the correct answer also. When you answered, it had the correct answer also. But telling everything is not the right way of answering. You need to understand the question. When Humayun ascended the throne, why will you talk about what happened in Bihar and Bengal? Bihar and Bengal is in the western side of the Mughal Empire.
It's in Eastern.
Or his brothers, and all these points will not come. You have to specifically, because if you answer everything, then it shows that you did not understand the question. Then also you are not given full marks, because understanding of question is very, very, very important. Your correct answer, which was hidden in between, was on the western side of India, there were the Rajputs and the ruler of Gujarat, Bahadur Shah, who kept on giving him trouble. Understood? So answer accordingly. Answer accordingly. Then if I tell you, how do you think Humayun's family member, if I ask you, did Humayun's family members cooperate with him as a ruler? Then you can say that his brothers went against
But
him.
there was ambitious.
And his brothers were very ambitious. All those things, and they were, this can be a difference. And if I ask you in general, give any 2 points, then you can give any 2 points. Your points are correct. These were problems faced by him. But when I'm asking you what problems, means what type of problem am I focusing on, relate to that. Now, let me ask another important question. What policies did Sher Shah Suri take regarding his army that was very similar to Alauddin Khalji? Who would answer? Let's see. Obhirup, will you be able to answer? Can you hear me now? Okay, Arshia. Girls are quiet. Arshia.
Ma'am, Sher Shah Suri regularly paid his soldiers in cash, and he also maintained the system of branding horses and maintaining the records of soldiers.
He branded his horses, paid his soldiers regularly in cash, and what did you say? And what else? Who
maintained, ma'am, Dag and Chehra.
Will you call it Dag and Chehra? Let's not call it Dag and Chehra, because Dag and Chehra was not the terms used. But yes, you can say that he maintained a record of his soldiers. He paid his soldiers regularly in cash. He branded his horses.
Cantonment and different part of territory.
He built cantonments in different part of the territory.
Yeah.
This is again in general, if I ask you. But if I ask you, what was the similarity between Alauddin Khalji and
branded the horses.
Branded the horses, paid soldiers regularly in cash.
Ma'am, Sukalpa, I want to say one point.
Yes.
He fixed the revenues and taxes.
Fix the revenues and taxes. Does it come under military administration?
No.
It does not come under military. So when I'm focusing on military, focus on military part. Then another question can be, let's see. Okay, one important question can be, how did the Mughals re-establish their rule on India? How did the Mughals re-establish their rule on India? Kavya.
Ma'am, just a minute. Ma'am, after Sher Shah's death, his how will I say this? His successors were weak and could not handle the rule very well. So, with the help of the ruler of Persia, Humayun re-established the Mongol rule in India.
Mughal rule.
Mughal rule.
Absolutely correct. So you will have to
as well, ma'am.
Since the Mughals were descended from Mongols, so it's kind of Mongol rule as well.
Yes,
but still,
there is a change
the
now.
name is Mughal.
In that much that we can make that small modification, and since they are Mughals, so we will refer to them as Mughals because they were
If you
related
write
from
Mongol,
the
then
mother's side.
also Mongol.
Okay, they were related from the mother's side. Okay, now I can ask you, what steps did Sher Shah take to make sure that the kingdom was economically strong? Economy means when I'm talking about finances and all. What steps? Tell me any 3 steps of Sher Shah, because you usually get 3 marks questions or 4 marks questions. So 3 steps of Sher Shah that made his kingdom economically strong. Let's see. Okay, Soham, say. Yes, Soham. Okay, Aryan, say. Aryan.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The steps which Sher Shah Suri took to make his like how will I put it?
To make the economic condition of his empire strong.
Yes, ma'am. To make the economic condition of his empire strong are he built an excellent network of roads. Then like he restored the Grand Trunk Road, which was
so this
first
can be 1 point. Roads should be 1 point. Yes, then
yes, ma'am. Then like he abolished all excess duties.
Okay, on trade.
Yes, ma'am. And he also introduced a silver coin which was called which is still called rupiah, which still remains the unit of Indian currency.
Yes. So add 1 word here. He introduced a standardized silver coin. Okay. Just write it this way, that he introduced a standardized silver coin. Means anybody and everybody could not make the rupiah. The new
What was the second point?
Was standardized, and hence you can write trade, commerce, agriculture, everything was flourishing in his kingdom. With rupiah, we can also, if I can also ask you as a 1 mark short question, that how can we still relate Sher Shah Suri's name with Indian economic system? So there you can say that the silver rupee that was introduced by Sher Shah is still used in India, and we call Indian currency as rupiah, which is silver, which we have silver currencies in India, which is called rupiah. So you can always say this. So present and the past, how is it connected? Another important question. So re-establishment of the Sur dynasty, I have already asked you. And where is Sher Shah's tomb?
I'm at Sasaram, Bihar.
Sasaram, Bihar.
It is in Sasaram in Bihar. It is in
Sasaram
in Bihar. Absolutely. Okay. Another question that that can be sometimes asked is that Sher Shah Suri, what steps did Sher Shah Suri take for the welfare of the farmers of his kingdom, or to promote agriculture? Then you can again write that he made sure that land was assessed and revenue was fixed accordingly. He told his people to be lenient while assessment of the land, but strict while collecting the tax. This way, and 1/3 was the tax. So there was the farmers were not overburdened with the tax, unlike Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So sometimes comparisons can also be asked. I hope now you more or less have an idea. You will be well prepared on Monday.
Yes.
I'll give both.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This 3 parts.
So, ma'am, the test is in 7th, ma'am. Is in 7th.
6th.
Oh, okay.
Okay, prepare well and come.